Hey guys. So first off, I had to do a trigger warning because some of these images that you're gonna see is very hard to look at. So viewer discretion is advised because of the gross images that you're gonna see. I want to tell my story about how I hurt my finger in a work accident and what all I had to go through to get it fixed and get it better. And I finally get to tell my story because I want to try to help someone else who's going through the same situation as me or just needs to hear it from somebody else that God's not done with you yet. You may have hurt your hand, you may have hurt something really, really bad, but God's not done with you yet. You still have a story to tell. And now I'm gonna tell mine. I hope you enjoy. So when my accident happened at work, it was July 31st. It was 2018. And I had a very bad injury on my right ring finger. When I was working, I was being trained on the foot clip welder. When the welder came down, it smushed my finger and it fractured two different bones in my finger here. And where it was a crush injury and an open finger sort of look to it. This part here, well, you'll see in images later on, it got fractured underneath the nail. And this part here also got fractured. Where I'll later tell you later on that this part that got fractured got connected back to where it was supposed to be, but this part never did. That was underneath this finger. And I'll tell you more about that. That was 2,000 pounds worth of force on one finger when it went and smushed my hand. It happened so fast I didn't know what truly happened or how bad I was hurting until after I took off the glove that I was wearing that was protecting my hand. And it was flat like this on that rail, and I took my hand and lifted it up like this very gently, and my hand came up off the rail that was being welded with those parts. And I had to have an emergency room visit that day on July 31st, 2018. And they numbed my finger and stitched it back up, but they had to push a bone back in because it came out. Before they numbed it, it was throbbing and it hurting so badly. My concerned husband was there when they were stitching my finger back up. And when they pushed the bone back in that was sticking out, that I didn't realize was sticking out in the first place because I wasn't fully aware of how bad it was until he told me that there was a little bone that was sticking out, which I'll show you in images in a little bit. Let me show you. So my first surgery on my right ring finger was August 2nd, 2018. And that's when I initially had my first surgery, and I do have pictures of how it looked afterward. And some of these images may be very hard to see. That's why I had the trigger warning in the first part of the video. And I will show you those now. The next images you're gonna see are when I first seen the pin in my hand that they had to put in to try to connect the bones back together so that they heal properly. And I'll show you those now. The healing continued from the first surgery, and I took more images of what my hand continued to look like as it healed up. And I will show you those. After many physical therapy appointments after my first surgery, I felt that something was still wrong with my finger physically, and I was right. There was definitely something wrong with it physically. But the doctor said that it was all better, that there was nothing he could do about it. Well, I argued with him until I got a second opinion, which he set up. But the bad thing about my second opinion was that the second opinion person, who was a hand specialist, agreed with the doctor who did my first surgery that there was nothing more that could be done for my finger, which I definitely didn't agree with. So we sought extra help. But I will show you the x-rays that showed there was something definitely wrong with my finger, because my finger was very wobbly on the end here. And fingers aren't supposed to wobble. And I knew that there was something wrong with it. Like I said, there was. As you'll see in the pictures from the x-rays, there is what I would call a floater that was a floating bone that did not connect to the one that healed up. And you will see that in these pictures, that there is indeed a floating bone that did not connect in the first surgery. And they were just going to leave it like that. And I wasn't having it. So I'll show you those right now. The second surgery, we found somebody to do it. January, February, March, April, May, June. It is June 24th, 2019, when we found somebody who could do it. And we had to go to Rochester for the surgery to be done. And the surgery went well. They cleared up more of the scar tissue that was found inside that wasn't helping, because I have this fast growing bands that I've always had. Doctors call it arthritic fibrosis. And what that means is that there is these scar tissues that band together like this to make it hard to break through barriers, to make it hard to bend, to make it hard to straighten, to where after you hurt your body, that certain things don't want to move very easily or do things that it's supposed to very quickly. And it takes a very long time to heal. This arthritic fibrosis, from what the doctor calls it, which isn't very rare at all according to them, is, well, it made it a lot easier to break through, because they had to cut here and here on both fingers. You can't see that, I don't think, but it's there. Maybe in better lighting. There is scars from the second and third surgeries that is like a small triangle without the connector on there. And I do have more pictures, I believe, that I can show you after the second surgery. And I'll show them to you if you can see it. So my finger continued to get better after the second surgery. And after a while, I realized that the wobbliness from the end of my finger on my right ring finger wasn't getting much better. Although we've had plenty of physical therapy and I was working really, really hard on it, the wobbliness wasn't going away. So eventually we came to the conclusion that we needed to see the doctor again for another opinion over in Rochester. And on November 1st, 2019 is when I had my third and final surgery on my right ring finger, where I had to make one of the hardest decisions of my life. And I had to get an amputation on my right ring finger, where they took this part here and they cut down like this. And from this part here, they went and cut this part here, and they used this part here. And they pulled this part here, and they brought it up over here. And they stitched it up, making that part close up. Because during the second surgery, they took the floating bone out because it wasn't doing me any good. But closing that one and taking that part of my finger off during the third surgery, it was a very hard decision. But my husband and my mom and my sister all stood by my decision, to have to take that part of my finger off. And it was, like I said, a very extremely hard decision. But the doctor assured me in Rochester, he said that by amputating that finger, that part of my finger, that it would make my grip and my grab of my hand of my finger so much better, that I could grip and grab things so much easier from small things like this, and I can grab it and grip it nice and strong like this, to something as simple as a medicine bottle, where I could grip it and grab it hard enough to where I wouldn't drop it. And my finger, after the surgery, was no longer wobbly. It was so strong, and it grew to be so strong, just like the doctor said. During the healing process of the amputation, to where they had to check it to see if the stitches could come out, and when finally the stitches did come out, to where the doctor and the physical therapist, they both said that there'll be a lot of sensitivity in that finger after that, and they were right. They said that the swelling would go down. It would take 6 months to a full year for the swelling to go down, and they were right. The swelling has definitely gone down from where it was, and it was really swollen. It was so swollen, the first visit to see if the stitches could come out, they weren't ready yet. So during another visit to Rochester, when the stitches were ready to come out, it was painful, because the healing from the skin being healed up after surgery, it grew a little over the stitches. So they had to break off some of that skin that was healing over the stitches to where that they could get the stitches out, which I'll show you what the stitches look like, and also what it looks like when the stitches finally came out. I'll show you those as well in the next images coming up. So I want to end this video with, the thing is that it took me a long time after my third surgery to be okay with how my finger looked like. After everything was healed up, after all the swelling went down, it took me a long time to realize that that finger isn't ugly. And if you're going through the same thing, where you're just in the part of the journey that's it, and that you're saying, this has got to be the ugliest thing that I've ever seen in my life. No, it isn't. No, it isn't. But you'll soon realize that. You'll soon realize that that part of you isn't ugly, even though you lost a part of your body because it had to be taken off, like mine did. You realize that it isn't ugly. But you do have a wonderful testimony and story to tell, despite the hard experience and all the pain that you had to go through and everything you had to work through. I had some amazing physical therapists and some really good doctors. But there was also some really bad ones that didn't believe me or didn't want to believe me when I told them that something was wrong. But ultimately, I can use my hands so much better now. And I got such a great story to tell because of everything that happened. I can tell my story of how my finger got crushed so bad and all the pain I had to endure that day and all of the surgeries that followed. Because I'm ready to tell it now. Because I hope that by telling my story, I might be able to help someone else through listening to my story, to my testimony on what happened. That I may be able to help them say, it's okay. This isn't ugly. That I'll get through this. Just like this lady did. And I'll be able to say, I got a great story to tell. Yes, you do. You got a great story to tell. You're just not done healing yet. And by telling my story, I can fully heal. The last part of me that needed to be done healing. Because the last part that needed to be done healing was only going to be able to be healed by telling my story on what happened to my finger and all the surgeries that and painful stuff that I had to go through. By telling my story that I can help someone else. The last part is healed. And I can be fully okay now. Despite all the pain that I had to go through. And I do hope that by telling this story today, that it might help someone. Be like, I have had a fracture, I've had a broken bone, but I'm not done yet. You are not alone. You're going to get through this, whatever it is. And you're going to be able to tell your story too, just like I am. So thank you for watching, and I do hope that it helps you. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.